Yeah, back when Treadwell was at rookie mini camp, I was really not a big fan of that signing. We did a live chat for that draft, and the first thing I typed in all caps was anyone but Treadwell. So that entire thing was like a slow-moving car accident. Um, but he had a lot of drops, and people, I wrote about that, and I said, should we be concerned? I said, it's too early to say, but it's not a good sign. And people were just basically ripping me for being biased and forcing my negative narrative on him, and and the thing that stood out to me at the time is that they were I think they were concentration drops or something. When it comes to Kellen Mond, I essentially told that story in the intro of it, and for people that didn't see it, essentially he was um, kind of all over the place in 7-on-7 drills. You know, almost got picked off. Was overthrowing guys. It just looked really bad. His footwork was. His fundamentals were bad. That was kind of the key thing, and I thought people might, the defenders of him, or the people that are so quick to crown him as the second coming of Patrick Mahomes, might write it off as it's a new offense. He doesn't have the timing with some of these guys, which is a valid concern, but also the fundamentals have nothing to do with that. And so my whole point was, let's all be we have to be patient. If I'm being patient in saying that these things um, may be a valid concern, they're worth noting. I'm not surprised by it, because if you read any of the draft profiles on him, he's a project, and that was kind of the point I was trying to make. Is everyone needs to be patient, but this guy is nowhere near ready to just step into this offense as currently comprised and not only match what Cousins has done, but surpass it.
Yeah, there's no two ways about it. And if your reason for saying so is that what you just said, and there is no bias involved, I totally am down with it, because that's what you have to be with everybody, especially quarterbacks, and especially one that's not, isn't Pat Mahomes. Not, he didn't start right away, did he? Or he came in pretty quickly, but he didn't start right away. Um, there's, it's a major adjustment going from the NFL from the college to the NFL. And if you're not going to be patient with it, if you try to rush it just because your emotions say, oh, I don't like Cousins for whatever umpteen billion reasons, let's put in Mon and just fly that way. Well, you're making a mistake, and the guys that make that decision, namely, what's his name, Mike Zimmer, he's not going to do that. He's not a guy that starts rookies. B, his life is on the line to a certain degree with this pick, both him and Spielman. They're going to bring him along right, and they got a decent quarterback that's starting, who finally may just have some things around him to help him succeed better. We all know what Cousins' deficiencies are, and I think the Vikings have made some steps to hopefully mitigate those this year. So to even think that you're going to start, Mond after Cousins' first interception or the team's first loss is just goofy. So, yes, be patient. Bring him up right. Bring him up the way you want him to. And it sounds like Mond's already got a great idea that, we said all these stories about he watched the whole season last year. Maybe that's not a good thing, but he's willing to learn. So if he's willing to learn, let him learn. He's patience. Maybe he'll get there. There's no guarantee either way. But right now, you have a pretty decent quarterback in there that maybe not be the guy that you want, but he might be the guy to take these teams to the next level if in fact this line is improved, because everything else is around him and the defense improves.
So yeah, there was an article on Purple PTSD right now. I think it's the most recent or the second most recent, by Dustin Baker, essentially looking at PFF's 2021 quarterback rankings rather, and I think Cousins comes in at 14th between Derek Carr and Justin Herbert.
Hmm.
And here's what they say of Cousins, which see if you can pick up on what I think is a really kind of contradictory sort of form of logic. Cousins operates very well when the conditions around him are good.
We all know that. Yep.
The Vikings hit on replacing Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson in the draft, and they have a top 5 rushing attack and a great offensive scheme that fits what Cousins excels at. Minnesota has to clean up its offensive line play, though. The unit ranked 29th in combined pass blocking grade in 2020, so on and so forth.
That for me is the key statement, though, Joe, because they didn't mention the fact that the Vikings did, made moves to clean up their offensive line ranking.
Yeah,
go ahead, make the point.
Well, then they also bring up Kellen Monde putting a ton of pressure on him unless he makes the playoffs, and it's just like these people. But the thing about, and I've said this before, especially in articles, of people saying Cousins needs everything to be perfect to function. Nothing's ever been perfect for him here. They follow up saying he needs things to be good, and then they say, but he's also had a third of the worst pass blocking this last season, and so he's had. First of all, I feel like he gets penalized for things other quarterbacks don't.
I would agree with that.
He has talent around him, therefore he sucks.
Yes. And if he doesn't have the talent around, how come he isn't making them better? I mean, it depends. If you come to the discussion with your pre-established prejudices or biases, that's what you're going to do. You're going to find the thing that works for your narrative. I mean, Pat Mahomes is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, until his offensive line went down, then he didn't win the Super Bowl. Yep. Aaron Rodgers does not have, at times, I mean, it's not perfect for him there as well either, Joe. It's not perfect. He has done things to rise above that, but he's not had it the way he wants, and to have better receivers, blah blah blah. And we all know what he's doing. But my point is, you're never going to have it perfect. And if I will hold anything to the feet to the fire for Kirk Cousins, is he does have to rise above some of that, and to some extent, he probably has. He had some great numbers last year. He's had some really good numbers while he's been a Viking. I saw one the other day, and I thought I even sent it to you. Whereas since in the last 100 and I think it was touchdowns for the or most recent period. He was like in this company with Breeze and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Brett Favre and blah blah blah. So Cousins, it's not like he's nothing. So it comes
he's the
back
only
to
quarterback that has 25 or more touchdowns in each of the last 6 seasons.
Exactly. So you have to. It depends on what you're bringing to the discussion, and if you don't want to be objective, well, then I guess it's not much of a discussion. Cousins needs to at sometimes elevate his team. Sometimes he has, but I think we want to see it more often. He's got to do it in big games, and I don't think you'd have people crabbing about it. He might even win the Super Bowl, and you still have people crabbing about it. That's the bottom line.
It would be a thing. Like I don't see, when Russell Wilson, when he won his Super Bowl. People saying, well, it was the defense. It is a team game. The quarterback is the most important component. I think you nailed it, though. I think one of the things that makes debates about topics in football never ending and seemingly there's no consensus or agreed upon objective truths for the most part is you can use any statistic or fact, both positively and negatively, depending on your bias. And I do try to be as self-aware as possible, and I try to say, well, that was a bad take. I don't think Cousins is perfect. I don't necessarily know if he would be the guy to win the Super Bowl, but I also don't think he's been in the best position to do that. I think that
agreed.
6 of the 7 NFC playoff teams last year had a top 8 offensive line. It's just how the league works now, and I'm excited to see what he can do. But looking at those rankings, I'm interested to see also that Russell Wilson was rated so high when he and Cousins essentially had the exact same season in regards to statistics. And then
did they put wins into that? Do you think? I mean, when they're making those rankings, do they factor in wins? I mean, you can talk all you want to, you're blue in the face about comparing stats, but wouldn't that be the biggest factor if, in fact, that's put in? I don't know. I'm asking.
I mean, it's part of it, I think. But what did Seattle win 2 more games than the Vikings did? And then
they made the playoffs. Cousins didn't, maybe.
Yeah, there could be that, I think. But at the same time, I do think it was, in retrospect, considering how atrocious the defense was, it is kind of miraculous that they even went 7-9 in the first place. I just think that, if it was, if wins, I just don't understand how he subbed Derek Carr, at all. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think on a local level that a lot of people, and I don't like to really, blanket kind of insult Vikings fans because that's our bread and butter, obviously, but I think a lot of people are still kind of hung up on this idea that his contract was this unique albatross of, I'm not saying it's not a lot of money.
It's part of it.
But I do think that they don't understand that he is also, basically paid market rate for his services now because all these quarterbacks are making as much or more money than he is. And a lot of them that are making more money than him have more accolades than he does, or so on and so forth. But it's not this thing where he's just this massively overpaid guy with guaranteed money that no one else makes. He set the market. Are those guys he did set the market? Are those guys that are making more money of him? Do they have better records? Are they winning more games? Which is going to mitigate some of this angst you have towards him. I mean, if Cousins, yes. He has whether he's got the biggest contract right now or not, he's still got a huge contract, and it can hamstring a team, since it's guaranteed and you can't restructure it or whatever, or they're not restructuring it. That hamstrings a team to in fact improve, and maybe these guys' other contracts are set up where they can build something around them better and win more ball games. For me, that's the bottom line. I'm not gonna weep for Kirk Cousins. Because he is doing pretty good in life. He, as far as certainly in his work career, he's getting paid very well. He's doing a decent job, but he's not taking us, to where we want to be. And I think that's the biggest problem. You see these other guys that can do that have gone and won. Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, blah, 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 blah. And that's what you want, Patrick Mahomes. And until he's that, he's never going to get the complete fair shake. But on the other side of the coin, he's got to win more ball games in order to shake that reputation, as far as I'm concerned. It's interesting, though, because guys like Aaron Rodgers, who Rodgers has lost every NFC Championship game he's been in, save for the year that he won the Super Bowl 10 years ago.
He's been in a lot of them, though. How many?
Yeah, he's lost all of them, though, except for that one.
So by Vikings standards, that's okay. Vikings, in my time, have lost a lot of them too.
I know, but the thing is that people always say, "Well, it's not Rodgers' fault. It's they don't put things around him. They don't put him in the best position. To take advantage of his talent. It's Mike McCarthy's fault. Ted Thompson's fault. It's the new regime's fault for drafting Jordan Love and not another wide receiver. Russell Wilson is.
Some people say that, Joe, but you can find somebody that blame on Rodgers. I would. I mean, the fact that it all comes down to perception. Rodgers was a 6th seed, and he took this team and won the Super Bowl 3 years after Favre left. So that was kind of big for Rodgers, and Favre had struggled doing that. So he got this in mindset in all his fans that they're going to, Rodgers is great, and he's won the MVPs before. He's great. So you've got to put this stuff around him. Kirk Cousins hasn't. Kirk Cousins is battling uphill against a reputation of, well, he's never done it here, he's never done it there, he's never done it on Monday night, he's never done it at prime time, blah, 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 blah. He's going to battle all that. If he wins the Super Bowl, some of that goes away. And Rodgers has that. Rodgers gets less blame than he should, because Rodgers, is becoming more of a liability. If you search far enough, you can find that. But it's just not as loud as the criticism of Cousins, because he hasn't taken him to that many NFC championships. I don't think he's taken him to any. And, the fact that people say, well, Case Keenum did, I mean, that's just silly. Kirk is a better quarterback, but it's all perception, and it's what it's. And I'm not trying to discount what you say, but I can't weep for Kirk Cousins. Get us a couple wins in the playoffs, put us in the precipice of greatness, and then maybe you might win some more people over to your side, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like like you're saying, Rodgers gets some flack, but I think
not much. You're right.
The people that because I know fans are all over the place, and you're always going to find people to that's what's funny about the political climate we live in, is that each side will find the craziest people posting the craziest stuff on Twitter and say, look how crazy they are.
Great point.
You're always going to have that on both sides. That's how there's billions of people on the planet,
and they make the most noise.
Exactly. And so I more look at like PFF and just saying, I'm not saying Cousins is a top 5 guy. I just don't think he's
good, because he's not
14th.
But he's always been that throughout his career, so that's a safe place for them to put him. When he came over from Washington, he was a middling guy. He was 15. So I mean, that's where they put him, and he hasn't done anything to dispel that. He's been kind of a 500 quarterback his whole life. How do you change that? I mean, if you weigh it as much as most people do, ultimately that's the biggest metric out there. You can flood discussions with all the stats and metrics and analytics that you want. But there's only one that really counts, and it's wins and losses. And Kirk has been a 500 quarterback.
Yeah, I also feel like if we had a quarterback like Monde last season, the Vikings maybe would have been 2-14.
Well, of course they would have. He's been a rookie.
The defense was awful. The defense was awful. The offense was really good. After the bye, especially. Cousins threw 3 interceptions in the last 12 weeks to like 25 touchdowns.
Joe, we know how Monde is going to do. He's not from the Big Ten. We already know he's going to stink. Okay,
yeah, it's so like it's. I'm trying to get it codified into law, but I'm gonna run for city council. But yeah, I just think it continuously astounds me. I'm not saying people need to say he's an elite quarterback. I'm not people in 2016 or 2015 that basically were the reason I started the site in the first place, that were saying Teddy Bridgewater was a top 5 quarterback after his rookie year, and I was like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. He has potential, and then everyone sent me death threats, and then I started Purple PTSD. I get that people want to, in this market, rush to crown. They're excited. We've never drafted and developed a quarterback for guys in my generation that lasted more than a couple years, like Culpepper, and so I get that. But at the same time, I'm continuously astounded by I'm not expecting people to crown him, but just the sheer amount of disrespect he gets for being, a good quarterback. Is he elite? No. Is he good? Yes. Is he terrible? No. Is he overpaid? Debatable. It's one of those things that I don't get why everybody just loves to crap on him.
Because he can take that crap and his check and go to the bank with a big smile on his face. It's perception. Yeah, yes, debatable. You're exactly right. You said the key word. He is overpaid. I would say he's overpaid for what he's accomplished, but I would say he's not overpaid given the market. So
yes.
So yes, it's debatable. And if you come down on one side and you don't like him, if you don't like him because of his religious views, if you don't like him because he's got this perfect little life, or if you don't like him because he's got happy feet in the pocket, or he gets nervous and doesn't do this right, I get mad. I got mad at him a couple times for 2 passes that he made, and I still haven't forgot him. The one of the end zone against the Packers, I said, how can an 8-year veteran make that throw? But, that shouldn't color my whole view of him, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm still behind him. But I will not, put him in an upper tier that, I think until he comes up with a 12 and would be now 5 season or 11-6, then my perception of him is going to be the same. And I know that sounds silly and pretty lame for a guy that has this job to just put it all on wins and losses. But ultimately, that's what we're talking about. That's what people do. Until you win and change that perception, you'll keep hearing it. That's why they always said he didn't win on Monday nights. Well, he finally did in prime time. So now you don't hear that anymore. But they kept saying it until he did. And they're going to keep saying it until he wins a couple playoff games and says, my God, he can take this team and put him on his shoulders and win some games that maybe he shouldn't have. So,
and I think one of the rubs against him too is he comes off as dispassionate. Maybe a lot of his answers are so choreographed, and you can tell he's just saying what he thinks is the right thing. When he has had those struggles, and it's like, well, he just says everything like he's reading it out of the How to Talk to the Media playbook, and it at some point, it does help if you show some semblance of not being trying to convey this Mr. Perfect thing and showing that passion.
I've been in some of those scrums. I've seen some of the anguish, at some of the questions he gets, but he's polished enough about that he will he might give a heavy sigh and then he will come out with this pat answer and that's going to play well on a soundbite, or that's going to be the lightning rod that draws the ire of those people that don't like him. So totally legit point, and it's part of the thing. I think I said last week, someone asked me why this always happens. Everything we're talking about, from the contract to the uncomfortableness in the pocket, to the blah blah blah, to the fact that he hasn't been won the games, it all factors in, and it all depends on whose ox it is you're going, or who's saying what. I think you're right to defend him, because he's not as terrible as people make him sound, but he might not be, or he hasn't shown us yet that he's better than I think the common perception.
And I think he could shut a lot of people up if somewhere during this season or next off season he took a pay cut.
Yes, I would agree. I was thinking about that recently. That's a very good point.
I'm frankly a little surprised he hasn't. I mean, obviously he came here. He took tremendous advantage of the market and being free agent quarterbacks of any level of talent don't usually hit free agency, and he took advantage of that.
Good for him.
Then he should. He took less money to come here than the Jets, because who would want to go there? It's a terrible media market. The people it's really ruthless, and the team's terrible. That having been said, I thought at some point he would say, I don't need to make $45 million guaranteed, especially if he's genuine in wanting to win a Super Bowl for this market. It is a hindrance next year. I've said this even in writing about my hesitance with Monde, that I'll even say that Cousins' 2022 contract is untenable. I don't understand how any of these contracts are going to work, to be completely honest with you.
I think that's
$50 million. That's a quarter of your salary cap on a team with 53 players for one guy.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, and that should tell all listeners that as much as Joe loves Big Ten quarterbacks, he has at least he's objective enough to say this, because that is a huge deal. If there's anything that grinds me about him, and has since he signed that big contract, is his reluctance to renegotiate or take a less salary. All he does is not reluctant to renegotiate. What he'll do is get an extension.
Yeah.
and spread out that thing.
He took a cut last year down to $20 million, but he upped everything else like crazy.
And I would think, I went through this with Kevin Garnett at the Wolves. We all said, okay, do you want to win? Do you want us to, be able to, if they had done that and maybe, redone Garnett's contract and said, okay, Marbury, you're just as big a deal here. Let's get these things a little closer. Stuff might not have had a hissy and left for New Jersey and all points east. It matters, I think. I think if you're a leader on the team, you have to say, I do need the rest of these guys around me. And I think my family's going to be fine with what I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
And, the guaranteed thing is just, everybody else is forced to take a cut.
Yeah.
Or renegotiate it. And
Tom Brady
not necessarily
used to do it.
Exactly. So, yes, absolutely he did. And that's probably why he won some Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm glad to hear you say that, Joe, because that's such a legitimate point, and it just, like I said, it proves your objectivity about this.
I like to say that I'm the most objective person. I'm very emotional, but I tether it to some attempts at being fair. It's going to be interesting. Also, I really want your take on the Mike Hughes trade, because that didn't make made any sense to me. Unless there's something we don't know yet, unless there's a decent free agency signing pending, which I saw about 4 or 5 hours ago. The Vikings signed some former 6th or 7th round
quarterback.
Yeah, that was like a special teams guy that didn't pan out for, I think, the Jets. And they did save, I think, 1.3 or 1.8 million, and then the dead cap was either the opposite of whatever. One was 1.8, one was 1.3. With the Jeff Gladney thing, and his career being over, and then you have another former first-round pick corner from just a couple years ago, still on his rookie deal, who, hasn't been able to stay healthy, but has shown some flashes of when he's healthy, of being able to contribute. I just don't understand why you would take an already tenuous and thin position group and say, let's not only trade him, but get a 6th-round pick in return, but then we also have to trade a 7th. So you really didn't do anything with it outside of a little bit of cap space.
Right.
Excuse me.
And it wasn't that bit much. It was like 1.2 or 1.5 that they.
Yeah, I think it was 1.8, and then the dead cap was 1.3, or 1.3 they saved, and 1.8 was the dead cap. But it reminds me of when they got rid of Pat Elflein during the middle of the season last year. They got a little bit of cap space, a lot of dead cap space, which doesn't really matter that much. But then all of a sudden, Ezra Cleveland got injured for that game, and it's like they're one injury away, really, in the cornerback spot from gigantic problems, and it's just very strange because there's all this excitement about everyone getting healthy on defense, and everyone was so excited about Gladney and Dantzler and how they ended their seasons. Patrick Peterson comes in, supposed to be the coach on the field. He just turned 30. Maybe with a change of scenery, he can get back to his all-pro days or close to them. And now all of a sudden, it looks like essentially Patrick Peterson, Cameron Dantzler, and Mackenzie Alexander in the slot, and then a bunch of question marks. And that is not. It's scary, and you can't blame Gladney on them, but you would think that you would want to keep Hughes around. He's more beneficial as a depth guy than he would be in any other instance, and he understands the system. So bringing in a free agent isn't a slam dunk either. I don't know why they did that.
When I first saw it, I started by scratching my head. I was going, what the hell? But I think I read it wrong. Because what I originally read was I thought the Vikings were giving up Hughes and they were getting a 6th and a 7th.
Okay.
And then I started reading, go, what the hell's going on here? And, then I look at, like you said, this cap savings, it's minimal, it seems like. I'm hoping it's not one of those things, and it has the earmarks of it right now, of when Zimmer just gets fed up with somebody for whatever reason, if they can't get on the field or they made him mad somehow, or, blah, blah, blah. Their relationship is untenable. It's time for he's gone. Let's get rid of him. Let's, move on from there. I hope it's not one of those. Because I don't know that they're in a position to be able to have those kind of little, whatever you would call it, in the secondary and the defense.
They don't have the luxury to.
Yes.
Yes.
In listening to you talk about, though, I came up with a thought, and maybe it doesn't make any sense, but maybe they know what his history is. They know that he's not going to be in the future big time starting plans for them because they can't keep him on the field. And, he's and I think we all think that's the biggest problem with him is his injuries, because he hasn't shown us, for an extended period of time what he can do. Maybe they know that he's not going to be. So maybe they're thinking, we got to find a way to keep Danielle Hunter on this team. And granted, 1.3 or whatever you said it was isn't much, but when you add it into what they have and maybe there'll be other moves, they can find some way to make him happy and keep him around. Because if he's gone and that thing is still hanging out there, if he decides not to play, and like Aaron Rodgers maybe is going to do, that whole defense falls apart in a hot minute. So I don't know, Joe. I don't know. I'm with you. I don't completely not understand it, but I kind of don't understand it.
And that, going back to what we were just talking about, I don't think anything would have more of a benefit or, on the flip side, a negative impact on this team than either retaining or losing Danielle Hunter. And if Cousins could help them lock him down, he's essentially broken every record by the age of 25 at the position.
Wouldn't you want that? If you're on the quarterback inner side, just give a little bit and, make sure that defense is good. I mean, if you're the quarterback and you're looking over what I got here, don't you try to figure how can I help here, without hurting myself. But if it's all just, okay, I'll renegotiate if you extend me down guaranteed money for the rest of my life, well then the heck with you.
Yeah, and I think if anyone understands the importance of an edge rusher, it's Mr. 29th in the league, sort of.
Good point.
So yeah, it's interesting. I do feel like there's obviously a lot of the offseason here left to go, and that we will see some other moves, but it's a head scratcher, that's for sure. It's not completely unforeseen that Zimmer would do something like you said about kind of on a personal level, just saying I'm done with this guy.
He's given people crap in the past for wondering about their injuries. And
Sharif Floyd.
Exactly, and if I'm not saying that's what's going on here, but boy, either they know that he's not in part of their plans. Let's get rid of him now because we need that money somewhere else. But I don't know. It came out of nowhere for me, I guess.
Yeah, you're right about the injury thing. I forgot about that. He seems like one of those guys who's like rubbed some dirt on it, and it's like, Coach, my knee is bent the wrong direction, which is a little tone deaf in today's day and age in the NFL for anybody that's a fan of Will Smith's filmography. But I think this is a good place to put a pin in it for this week. We're doing sort of an amended show.
Joe, you were talking about early on that it was a slow news week. Thank God for Kirk Cousins, so we have something to talk about.
Oh man, I can always find a reason to defend to defend Cousins. Speaking of payments under the table, half that guaranteed money goes to me.
Nice.
Yeah, but
Then we got to talk, brother. Right after the show's over, half of his money's coming to you.
But we will be back next week, and I want people to keep an eye on all of our websites: Vikings Territory, Purple PTSD, Franchise Tagged. As I alluded to, we're going to be doing some fun stuff with Paul Charchian's Guillotine Leagues that we'll announce next week, and essentially we're going to be launching this UFTA Super League, which is actually 12 different leagues of 18 teams. Each league will have somebody that is well known in the industry or a former player, and we want to see if people can beat the so-called experts. And the way it works, it's a little bit different. It's your entire roster, which is nice because, as we said earlier, I always make the wrong move at the last second, and my bench outscores my starting team. And each week, it's all 18 teams against all 18 teams, and the lowest score gets cut each week, hence the guillotine. So we're super excited to be working with Charch and with the Guillotine Leagues, and you can put your money where your mouth is and go against me and Mr. Oberly. So that'll be fun, because I know if you love nothing more, Joe, it's than getting really deep divey about our personal fantasy teams on the air. It's always been your thing.
No.
We will return next week with some more Vikings coverage on KDLM Sports. This has been the Vikings Territory Breakdown for the 19th of May. Skol.